Auzu billahi minash shaitanir rajim. Bismillahir rahmanir rahim. Assalamu alaikum, dear students. Welcome to week number 13, recorded lecture number 34. In today's lecture, we are going to cover safety and risk, and the main source for this lecture is Ethics and Engineering. This book will be shared with you with this lecture. Risk and safety. We means we as customers or as clients. So we demand safe products and services because we do not wish to threatened by potential harm, but we also realize we have to pay for this safety. Like when we go to purchase anything for our personal use, for our family use, we ensure it is safe. It does not malfunction somewhere in between and harm. So that is our priority. But at the same time, we should also keep in mind that those things, the safer they are, the more costly they can be, because taking safety precaution can also take some cost. So we should also keep in mind that those products or services that are relatively safe can be little expensive as well. Like can be, not necessarily, but in most of the cases safety has some cost, and we should be keeping that in mind and willing to pay that cost. One thing can be safe for one person but may not be safe for another. This is again how to define safety. We may not be able to give one standardized definition of safety that can fit in all the context in all the situations, because the fact is safety can vary from one individual to another individual, from one context to another context, from one situation to another situation. For example, let us take these two examples. A knife in the hand of an adult is safe, but not safe at all if a child carries it. Like the knife remains same, but if an adult carries it for any sort of work or cutting, it's safe almost every day, every household. It's an household item, so almost every day it is being used at home for the kitchen, and it's safe. But the same knife, if it goes in the hand of a child who does not know how to use it, it is not safe at all. The child can harm himself or herself, or can, like the most chances are he or she is going to harm himself or herself, but unconsciously can also, unknowingly can also harm others as well. So safety for like adult is different in this scenario, and safety for child is different. Similarly, a sick person is more prone to suffer ill effects from air pollution than is a healthy person. Like if there is too much of air pollution and we have two persons, one is healthy, completely fit, and another person is sick. So the one who is sick is likely to be more affected. That polluted environment can be more harmful for the sick one, because the sick person is already suffering from something and does not have that much strong immune system that can fight against that pollution. So Again, going back, that safety can mean different things for different people, and it can, be different for different individuals as well. Well, absolute safety in the sense of, entirely risk-free activities and products, or a degree of safety that satisfies all individuals or groups under all condition, is neither attainable nor affordable. See, we should keep both things in mind. Number one, absolute safety, where there is 0% risk, right? When we talk about absolute safety, means something that is 100% safe. So that's a very large claim if someone or some organization makes, because any such thing which is 100% safe, or which is 100% acceptable to every individual of the group, 100% individual of the group, that is unattainable. In, like, you cannot get that in simple words. And it's not also affordable because if one starts covering 100% risk of a product, then its costs are ultimately going to go very high. But it does not mean that safety measures should not be taken. Though it is 100% risk-free product and services are unattainable, but it doesn't mean that the safety should not be safety precautions should not be taken. So yet it is important that we come to some understanding of what do we mean by safety. So we have to reach somewhere, where we have to decide on the safety. Well, the concept of safety, one approach to defining safety would be to render the notion thoroughly subjective by defining it in terms of whatever risks a person judges to be acceptable. So now it's very difficult to give a definition for safety that is acceptable for all, but we can give a subjective definition, that what is safety for me, for example, I being the individual or you being individuals. So subjective definition can be that the level of risk that is acceptable for me is safety definition for me. For example, like riding motorbike. For me, I can ride a motorbike. I have been riding a motorbike. So for me, the taking risk of riding a motorbike is acceptable. So that is a safe ride for me. But I know many people around me who would not sit on motorbike because they consider it unsafe, because they are not ready to accept risks for riding on a motorbike or bike. Now see, this individual subjective definition is, for me the risk is acceptable, so it's all right, motorbike is safe for me. For someone else, risk is not acceptable, so motorbike is not safe for him or her, right? So moving forward to the next point, such a definition was given by William W. Lawrence. A thing is safe if its risks are judged to be acceptable. Like, we know that there is risk, but it is acceptable. So subjectivity, we can say that thing is safe. This approach helps underscore the notion that judgment about safety are strictly value judgment about what is acceptable risk to a given person or a group. So individuals consider certain risks to be acceptable, that thing, that product or service becomes safe for them. Similarly, groups decide some standards of safety, that okay, anything at this level is safe for us. So though that amount of risk that they decide to take are considered safe for them. Well, difference in assessment of safety are thus correctly seen as reflecting differences in values. Obviously, like those who value more to the safety, they won't compromise, they would like to be close to 100% safety. And there are others who, maybe they do not value the safety to that extent. For them, even 50% chance would be acceptable. So we can say that differences in assessment of safety are correctly seen as reflecting differences in the values, how people value that particular thing. Okay, so now moving towards the concept of safety. Martin and Schwarzenegger 2010 prefer to adopt a modified version of Lawrence's definition. So a thing is safe if were its risks fully known. Those risks would be judged acceptable by reasonable persons in light of their settled value principles. So when do we say a product is safe? When all its risks are known. The more we know about risks of a product or of a service, the safer it becomes for us, right? And those risks are acceptable by reasonable persons. Though this is a bit subjective and difficult to define reasonable person, but we can have a few characteristics, like those persons who are educated, sensible, they have common sense, they have experience in that particular area, and they are serious about safety and health issues. We can say they are reasonable people. So in the light of their settled values, whatever the values and principles they have made. For example, for engineering, the reasonable persons would be those who are experienced engineers, like those who recommended or developed PEC code of conduct or other competent authorities. So we can say they are reasonable persons. So putting it in our own words, that those risks, so those products, about which the risks are known, they are safe, and this decision of safety is made by the reasonable persons of that particular group, on the basis of the value of the principle that the group follows. In Martin and Schwarzenegger 2010 view, then safety is a matter of how people would find risks acceptable or unacceptable. If they knew the risks and were basing their judgment on their most settled value perspective. So rightly pointed out that safety is actually knowing the risk. So the more we know about the risk, we are conscious about it, the safer we feel. Well, to this extent, safety is an objective matter. It is a subjective matter to the extent that value perspective differ. In what follows, we will usually speak of safety simply as acceptable risk. Objective part of this matter is knowing about the risk. So that is almost agreed by the majority, that the more we know about risks of a product, the safer they feel. This is objective, but again subjectivity remains there, as we have discussed, and that subjective perspective can vary from one person to another one. For example, for one, air travel is safe, and for the other person, air travel is not safe, right? So this is subjective understanding of safety. Now we can say mainly there are three types of risks that usually we have. The first is underestimation of risk. What is underestimation? When the risk is not known to you, and or there is some risk, but you do not give any heed to that risk, you do not give any value to that risk. For example, in the current pandemic situation, COVID 2019, the reports came from Italy that when the people in Italy, they did not estimate risk of COVID-19 or novel COVID-19 as serious. So there were some news reports, they started playing different plays on the roads, and they did not avoid social gatherings, and they continued. Actually, they underestimated the risk, and unfortunately then in the beginning, after China, Italy was one among the fast spreading nations of COVID-19 because they underestimated the risk. We can take another similar example from Pakistan. For example, on Eid al-Fitr, that we just had a month or two ago, people even in Pakistan, many of them underestimated the risk, so they went out for shopping, and even on Eid they had social gatherings with relatives and so on and so forth. That showed they underestimated the risk of being exposed to COVID-19, and unfortunately, in that time there was much increase in the corona patients in Pakistan. So that was because they underestimated the risk of COVID-19. Second is overestimation of risk. Now, like underestimation is harmful, similarly overestimation is also harmful. Now, if there are like certain works, they have to continue, like for example livestock, from that is needed for the people to live, suppose milk, suppose grocery shops. Now if governments close everything and they do not have any backup, like systematic countries like China, so obviously people would die of hunger if these things, necessities, were not provided. So that would be overestimation. See, risk is in everything. Even when we go out of our home, there is a chance that our mobile phone can get snatched. When we drive to our workplaces, office or university, there is a chance that we can come across an accident. We can meet an accident on our way, and but it does not mean we stop going to university or we stop going to our workplaces because there are accidents take place on roads, and that's why I'll never go to the road. That would be overestimation of risk, right? So in case of risk, there should neither be underestimation nor be overestimation. Third thing, no judgment of risk. There are many people who do not even try to judge the risk, and this common phrase in Urdu, unfortunately people use, yar Allah Malik hai, right? Well, that again is wrong. That again is wrong. Faith never asks you to close your eyes and jump into the sea, right? First, you should take safety precautions. So, this no judgment of risk is again very harmful, that they do not even try to judge the risk, right? Like when there are new things, suppose taking the same COVID-19 problem, because that this is a new sort of a virus, and though today we know many things about it, we means the health professionals, but in the beginning when it started, there was no judgment about the risk, how it could spread and all that. So there are three situations, where we should go for risk estimation. There should neither be underestimation of risk nor overestimation of risk, and the risk should not be ignored also, that we do not even judge it. So a risk is a potential that something unwanted and harmful may occur. That is risk. We take a risk when we undertake something or use a product or substance that is not safe. So when we use a product that is not safe, it means we are taking a risk. Well, risk like harm is a broad concept covering many different types of unwanted occurrences. In regard to technology, it can equally well include dangers of bodily harm, of economic loss, or of environmental degradation. So on one hand, technology is useful, beneficial for us, but at the other side there is also risk, that is danger of human body harm, economic loss, money loss, or environmental degradation, that may be due to that technology the environment is going to become worse, it's going to become harmful. So this remains there. These in turn can be caused by delayed job completion, faulty products or system, or economically or environmentally injurious solutions to technological problems, right? So these risks can occur, they can take place because of delayed job completion, or faulty product system that was not functioning properly, or economically or environmentally injurious solutions, that those solutions that might solve the problem temporarily, but in the long run they can be harmful for environment, or they can be harmful for economy. So they would come under risk. Now, acceptability of risk. A risk is acceptable when those affected are generally no longer or not apprehensive about it. Like those who are involved in that situation, they do not have any fear. So when they do not have any fear, so for them there is no risk in them. Apprehensiveness depends to a large extent on how the risk is perceived. Apprehensiveness is influenced by many factors. Now this apprehension or this fear of things depends on how risk is perceived. There are certain people, they wouldn't even mind wheeling on a motorbike, riding motorbike on one wheel, and for them, they are not fearful of it. In fact, it is not safe, but they consider it safe. On the other hand, there are others who do not consider bike ride a safe, even when it is being ridden with all the safety precautions. So it depends on apprehensiveness of the people. The factors that influence risk apprehensiveness include: number one, volunteerism and control, whether you volunteer for that risk or not. Like John and Ann Smith and their children enjoy riding motorcycles over rough terrain for amusement. You know, for enjoyment, they are riding motorbikes on the rough roads or the rough terrain. They are not proper road, and the purpose is they are doing it for enjoyment. So they take voluntary risk, part of being engaged in such a potentially dangerous sport. Nobody forced John, Ann, and their children to do it. They are doing it willingly, they are doing it for enjoyment. So, this is voluntary risk. There was no force, and they have accepted to take that risk for that enjoyment. They do not expect the manufacturer of their dirt bikes to adhere to the same standards of safety as they would the makers of a passenger car used for daily commuting. Of course, those bikes that are being used for that rough terrain, they cannot be as safe as their family cars that they use almost whenever they need for their personal use. So they cannot expect the bikes to have all those safety precautions. Now moving forward, volunteerism and control, we are continuing with the same factor. John and Ann live near a chemical plant, the same family. It is the only area in which they can afford to live, and it is near the shipyard where they both work. So there are two reasons they live there. Number one, they cannot afford any other area. Number two, that is closer to their workplace. At home, they suffer from some air pollution, and there are some toxic wastes in ground. Official inspectors tell them not to worry, nevertheless they do, and they think they have reason to complain. See, there is a risk in this situation also, risk of air pollution and damaging their health, but in this case John and Ann want to go and register a complaint because they feel it is dangerous. Well, riding the motorbike on the rough terrain was also dangerous, but that in that case they had voluntarily accepted it, and in this case this is not voluntarily accepted. Willingly they are not taking it that okay, fine, it's all right, and they can go ahead with the air pollution. So this is controlled risk. So this is the difference between, there are certain risks that we take voluntarily, willingly, and there are certain risks that we do not enjoy taking, and then we do not accept such risks. John and Ann behave as most of us would under the circumstances. We are much less apprehensive about the risk to which we expose ourselves voluntarily than about those to which we exposed involuntarily. So this one is involuntary for John and Ann's. Well, effect of information on risk. The manner in which information necessary for decision making is presented can greatly influence how risks are perceived. So how you present that necessary information to the people who are going to be part of that risk is also important. If it is presented well, so maybe they will perceive the risk as it is, neither less than that nor more than that. The Smiths are careless about using seat belts in their car. They know that the probability of their having an accident on any way on any one trip is small. Had they been told, however, that in the course of 50 years of driving at 800 trips per year, there is probability of 1 in 3 that they will receive at least one disabling injury, then their seat belt habits and their attitude about seat belt laws would likely to be different, because this time they do not have complete information. Despite having seat belts in their cars, they do not use, unfortunately, like most of Pakistanis do, because they are not aware that in one there is probability that in one accidents out of 3 that they may come across, that accident can leave them disabling injury, like they may lose their leg or hand or something that disables them and stops their smooth everyday functioning. So if they had known, if they had information, maybe their behavior towards using seat belt would be changed. Well, job related risks. John Smith's work in shipyard has in the past exposed him to asbestos, most probably some disease name. He is aware now of the high percentage of asbestosis cases among his co-workers, and after consulting his own physician finds that he is slightly affected himself. Even N, who works in a clerical position at the shipyard, has shown symptoms of asbestosis as a result of handling her husband's clothes. Earlier, John saw no point to all the quotation, all the fuss stirred up by some do-gooders. I mean, those who were, against this, that, this disease, asbestos, they were favoring the employee that, okay, those who are facing this problem, they should be treated, or maybe environment should be improved so that people do not catch these diseases. So first John wouldn't give them any importance. He figured that he was being paid to do the job. He felt that masks that were occasionally handed out gave him sufficient protection. See, even masks were occasionally given. And he thought the company physician was giving him a clean bill of health, which apparently seems that even the company physician was not telling him the truth. So when he visited his personal physician, he or she told him the actual health condition. So these are job related risks they have been coming across, and you and I may also come across. Well, moving forward towards magnitude and proximity, our reaction to risk is affected by the dread of a possible mishap, both in terms of its magnitude and of personal identification or relationship we may have with the potential victim, such as a plane crash in our own country, a war in another country. So, magnitude of that accident, how large that accident was. For example, an unfortunate airplane crash that took place in Karachi just a few days before Eid. Actually, now because that took place in Karachi, so now many, at least Karachites, are frightened of the air travel. at least they will remain for some time, because the magnitude, all people aboard, almost all, I guess one or two people could survive. All people aboard, they died, and it was around 100 people. So such huge magnitude is frightening. Second is proximity, the chances, the vicinity, right? The chances of risk, or of going something wrong, is another factor that usually influences.